around the corner from where Lincoln was shot. And a few blocks west at 14th Street was Garfinkel's department store, where my grandfather, my mother's father, had gone to work as a cuffer in the men's tailoring department after he got off the boat from Russia. Next to Garfinkel's, F Street stopped abruptly at the Treasury Department, adjacent to the White House, which my class from grammar school visited almost every year. My maternal great-grandmother, a tiny woman with shriveled skin, still lived downtown, on 7th Street, just beyond the big department stores, atop a little photo studio where the youngest and strangest of her 5 children snapped portraits, sometimes of a congressman or a clutch of local businessmen. I'd been disoriented by our move from the city to the suburbs. The jumble of downtown Washington, where the shrines and emblems of the nation gleamed next to squat mercantile buildings and faded antebellum rooming houses, had for me an enchantment of familiarity. I'd turned 16 on Valentine's Day and felt much more adult now with a work permit in my wallet and my underage employment at McBride's, technically illegal like some of its layaway interest rates, behind me as well. I walked past the sooty Hotel Harrington and the television studios of WTTG and the Dumont Network, where every couple of weeks I danced on the Milt Grant show with other teenagers, white ones, because the black kids danced on a different day of the week. Woodward and Lothrop, my destination, was a turn-of-the-century pile that Washingtonians called Woody's. It was the biggest department store in the city and took up a full square block. My mother and father, in the early 1950s, had taken me with them to join the sit-ins at Woodward and Lothrop to desegregate its tea room. In those days, Union Station was the only place downtown, besides the government cafeterias and a few others owned by a man named Evan Scholl, that would serve black customers at tables. They could stand and eat at the lunch counters inside the dime stores and department stores, but were forbidden to sit. On F Street, a block from Woody's, a legless vendor of pencils worked his turf on a dolly with roller skate wheels, propelling himself with his hands and arms while a pet monkey held tight to his shoulder. I'd seen the man many times and had wondered about him. Flush with cash this day, I asked him for 2 pencils. I extended a quarter. It was not often that I towered above the person I was talking to, or his monkey. The vendor seemed gabby, wanting to talk. He asked me where I was going, and I told him I was heading to Woody's to buy a suit. He was wearing tattered pants that had been cut off and sewn or folded somehow to cover the stumps of his legs. He suggested that perhaps I'd like to buy 6 pencils. He asked me my name, and when I told him, he brightened and said his name was Bernstein, too. Eddie Bernstein, which made me suspicious, and that his monkey was named Gypsy, which sounded about right. To prove he was Eddie Bernstein, he produced his vendor's identification, then asked which Bernsteins I was from. I was sure we weren't related. There were no Bernsteins outside our immediate family who were kin that I'd heard of. Plus, this Eddie Bernstein said that his family was from Florida. He asked how much I wanted to spend on a suit. I told him maybe $40. "You should go see my friend Louis," he said. "No label Louis." He was insistent, but in a friendly way. He said that Louis sold suits at a steep discount, probably half of what I'd pay at Woody's, and that if I asked for Louis himself and told him Eddie Bernstein had sent me, I'd get an even better deal. I'd brought along a picture of a blue cord summer suit I liked, clipped from the pages of a magazine, though I didn't show it to him. He pointed east and said Louis' store was on D Street, near the intersection of 7th, a patch I knew well because my great-grandmother and the photo studio were almost around the corner. I bought 4 more pencils from Eddie Bernstein and headed down the street past my father's old union office. Louis Goldstein's haberdashery, as its owner referred to his store when I walked inside, was conspicuous from the sidewalk because of its big electric sign, unusual downtown, where almost everything shut down by 6 in the evening except for a few restaurants and bars and the peep show movies and burlesque house on 9th Street. Louis was wearing a beret, something else not often seen in the neighborhood, and smoking a cigar. Eddie had been truthful about the quantity of suits. There were thousands of them, maybe 5,000 or 6,000, rack after rack, stacked halfway to the ceiling from the front of the store to the back. In one aisle, there was just enough space for a 2-sided placard with pasted photos of well-dressed customers. "No label Louis, we won't be undersold."